too. So
oh wow,
this is just going to be we're going to be back to normal.
Okay, so I know that first, whoever decides we want the pick first gets the 4 characters in Chinese at the bottom, but I am unable to tell half the time whether that means first pick or second pick. So I normally just assume it's first pick because that's what most teams have been choosing. But I've got to do a little bit of a deeper dive here. Also, I'm looking at the fact that yeah, our producer Ilya also sent us that information. I just did not look at it, so that is also my bad. Varus picked up first, and we'll see what the response is on the other side for TES.
I tried to give you the out there, man, but whatever.
No,
Varus being unbanned, I think, is quite interesting. We don't know if this will go top lane, but we have not seen Flandre play it, and it is, I think, probably one of Hope's best champions that he has very rarely been able to get access to this year, outside of a couple of games very early on. Actually, looking at it, yeah, he's gotten a couple of them, but he's gotten 0 Varus games in Split 2. So one of the most dominant champions that we will see for AL, and Nefiri now being taken. Are we going to be seeing some more of the shifting jungle priorities? I wonder what we're going to be getting from Tarzan. I know Nefiri was a rather prominent champion coming in from his champion pool.
If you want to try to take away some synergy with this Lucian locked in, a Corki Nami might make sense, and you want to send that, but you would have to send the Varus top lane early on. It would most likely be Fengyue getting his pick of the litter in the Nami or the Milio to round out this first phase of bans. Shanks has been very comfortable blinding this Azir as his most played champion this season. We have seen questionable performances on this champion specifically, just his current place in the meta, especially blind though.
And without Ryze, it does mean that we're probably going to have to see something a little bit different from Creme. He has played some Ahri. I know Aurora's also been quite fun, but usually with Nefiri, you do want a mid lane champion that can give you point-and-click crowd control. So to see her kind of decoupled from a champion like Annie is a bit worrisome. AL are going to go for the tried and true. It seems like they've been really loving this Skarner and Azir combo as a 2v2. It has been something that has been getting a lot of shift in focus. And so AL, they have the range with Azir and Varus. Skarner can technically be good, but with Emilio on the opposite side, do you think our top esports have some legs to stand on when it comes to trying to find these 5-on-5s?
Yeah, the Emilio not only a great pairing with the Lucian, but you also will get to AoE cleanse the Impale once it ends up getting channeled by Tarzan. So very good gameplay, very good answers into the composition that anyone's Legend have already set up that have a lot of heavy crowd control in their ultimate abilities. We get ready for our second ban phase. No real hesitation to just target the mid lane for AL, knowing that Creme has a lot of interesting counters that he can pull out. Remember, he started off as an assassin player back when he was on OMG. Those are always the traditional answers into the Azir as well.
I'm honestly a little bit shocked I didn't even recognize that Bard made it through and that AO weren't willing to prioritize this champion in the first phase just to get your bot lane pair. But maybe just putting a lot more effort into making sure that we take care of one of Creme's most played champions this split. Azir at 15 games, the next highest is 7. That is a massive gap in terms of priority. So Renekton and Aurora, to me, kind of screams that we are probably looking at trying to prioritize either the Mbessa or going for things like Cassante here for topside. Again, also, we don't have the Yorick quite coming on through yet for Flandre. So for top esports, what is going to be Creme's champion?
The Hui. For some extra range and...
Yone!
I was saying this earlier this week. They sit on 0 for way too long on this draft graphic. It's really hard to tell when they actually lock something in or not. But the Yone as that assassin answer into the Azir, something very classically we've seen even in the early iterations of the matchups between AL and TES back at the start of 2025.
I'm worried if we pick Nico that our team is a little too squishy. I think with Yone and the interactions that the mid jungle of top esports have versus their team, they can very easily pick this champion off in side lanes or even in the approach towards fights. What is going to be Flandre's champion? I don't know a champion that's really going to tie it together. We're going to go for the Mbessa like I was mentioning. So all about dive, all about abusing the range of Varus and Azir so that eventually Mbessa and Nico can try to catch some players off guard. I think giving Creme one of his best champions in his career is a bit dangerous. And Milio, I think Milio is just way too OP in this kind of draft. We'll see if it ends up paying off for this team.
3 abilities that just have AoE roots, stuns, or anything along those lines.
Gwen.
That's something that Emilio is going to answer so well. And we also get a Gwen up in the top lane against 3 ranged champions that are going to be issuing out a lot of poke on the AL side. Top Esports, although their composition is not necessarily the most meta, it is certainly something that can really take advantage of the champions that AL have selected here in Game 2.
I just think we're going to come into 5-on-5s. So we're going to say, okay, Top Esports, you do not have a tank. So how you play engagements is going to come down to, can you pull the trigger at the right time? I like this 2v2 from a bottom lane perspective for Top Esports. It's just these solo lanes. Some of Mbessa's power has been put into her lane, but can definitely be a little bit weaker. Gwen, kind of the same thing. And if Top Esports fumble at any point, I think the reliability of AL's composition is going to start to kick in. Just the front-to-back nature of what you get with a Varus and Azir is just too strong, I think, in a lot of games, especially when we're talking about teams that are evenly matched in skill. So this is going to be a draft that if Top Esports win, I think is going to be in emphatic fashion.
Composition has a lot of answers to a Top Esports team that has seen a 12-game win streak turn into a 3-game loss streak. A loss here would not put them behind AL in the standings, but would tie them in match score and set up interesting situations as it comes down to tiebreakers at the end of the season. A top 4 bid and automatic place in the playoffs is nice, but getting a higher seed is even better than that. TES looking to try and rewrite this narrative here, even up our series, send us to a Game 3 against AL as we're on to the Rift for game number 2.
There was some BM going across with the fan cheerleaders there. They didn't even wait for each other to finish. There was just overlapping gyos. Something was wrong. Something was wrong in the force there, but we're already seeing AL put early vision down, not only to stop Naafiri from potentially jumping over the Baron pit wall and invading, but again, we said it for TN. If you can get early vision onto Tarzan, you're happy. Jesus Christ, JiaQi Love.
Yeah, a great trade happening here as now we have lethal tempo procced here in the mid lane for Shanks, taking Creme to about 100 HP. He has a Doran shield and a potion, so should be able to regenerate nice enough. But this early poke from Shanks is really the one time that the Azir has the advantage in this 1v1 matchup.
He's looking at jungle, mostly just looking at Naafiri. Does she decide to jump over the wave, or jump over the wall? Doesn't and elect to go for it, so it's just going to be full clears to opposite sides. Skarner trying to find ganks onto Gwen. Not likely a position that they'll find themselves in. And I think Top Esports are starting to lose the back end of some of these trades, but once they get some of their first recalls in, I am really, really liking how this Top Esports draft can finish out a game.
All about how these individual matchups end up shaping out. Creme with the Soul Unbound, forcing Shanks back, allowing for that wave to be in a good spot for the Yone to farm up. Likely going to see issuances of TPs from both of these mid lanes before the first spawns of the Rift Scuttlers end up coming through. Up in the top side, pretty good matchup for Zoyan here into Flandre and Bessa. And we'll see what he's able to do when he's able to pilot a carry in one of these carry v carry matchups. Hasn't necessarily gotten that opportunity in the last couple of series against Zika and Flandre so far.
In the platonic ideal for Gwen, she is monster OP in this game. I mean, her ultimate, if she can land it onto multiple members, she can rip apart this backline. Her Hollowed Mist, I think, is even more broken when you're talking about trying to play into Nico and Varus, so it'll be quite interesting to see if Zoyan can actually perform and give us that big carry matchup. Yen should be spotted here, and trying to go for a dive underneath this turret.
Yeah, no combat summoner spell on Hope's side as JiaQi Love already gets taken down pretty low. They're trying to land the final Blight stacks, but it won't be enough. First Blood into the hands of Top Esports, and Zoyan on the other side of things is barely going to go down. Flandre flashes forward, eats one final turret shot, and will be able to escape with his life.
Well, all of my narratives talking about that Flandre isn't the best laner, that Flandre is one of the biggest gold sinks for this AL team is not at all coming true. These last 4 games that we have seen from him, whether it is jungle attention from Tarzan or him individually playing very well, he is putting in a lot of work to bring this team back up to standard. And that gank from Tarzan really well timed to try to cut away at what could be a problematic Gwen later on.
So a good start here for AL to try to stymie some of that really strong power that TES are going to have on their top side. But the bot lane, not so lucky. JiaQi Love never really talked about it. You get horrible game number 1. Ended like 0-4-0 onto that Jhin. Already off to a much better start in a lane and a matchup that he should be able to take further advantage of in the Lucian mid.
Tarzan's going to show mid. Might actually just get this kill.
W4 is slow. Yeah, there's the boulder. One more auto attack should do it, but Tarzan doesn't have the flash and Creme does. And that's the difference there in the 1v1.
Is Creme going to have to stay? Yeah, it looks like he's just going to have to recall. It's a bit of a not great timer considering Shanks was able to complete an entire recall and come back to lane and also pulls the wave. So now he can just freeze in front of his turret. It's probably just going to turn into a small advantage for the Azir, but that's all you really need sometimes is just make sure that Creme can't force potential plays onto you and also make sure that you're able to guarantee a small gold advantage, which getting items onto Azir, always a win condition for whatever team he's on.
Yeah, so Tarzan not killing Creme, but ends up costing him an entire cannon wave as well as his flash, certainly
it's going to feel like a kill.
Target later on. Exactly. Like the amount of gold you lose plus the resource in the flash that is gone, very similar value in terms of the gank that Tarzan, without Shanks, was able to pull out.
Top side we see pings, and kind of here for top esports, it'll be another first dragon, as that'll be Tien being spotted, pulling this dragon out, leveraging the bot lane prio, which, by the way, JiaQi Love not only up a kill, but also almost up 15 CS by himself with Fengyue. So, wonder if they're just going to continue to split map, leave the Gwen on a side lane. Now that she has ultimate, I always feel like she's very similar to someone like Rumble. Oh, this is Creme.
Well, right back to the scene of the crime. Nice buffer from Creme with the Fate Seal, but Tarzan still has his ultimate. Not even going to have to use it. The Soul Unbound going to force Creme to come right back to where he started. And Shanks takes him down with the help of a Sand Soldier, 2-1 in favor of anyone's legend.
I think it is so surprising to see Creme stumble on this champion because it's kind of what he made his name on, especially at the international stage. So to see him falling this far behind in the Azir matchup, something that we had talked very early on as Azir's place in the meta is a little bit less tenable. It seems like players and teams are a little less high on this. Maybe that's just the Chovy effect, similar to the Rocket Belt that we've been seeing take over the mid lane. But this is really good signs for AL. You've opened up 1,000 gold lead, and that's kind of chipping into what JiaQi Love was showing.
And it feels like these two mid laners, very similar growth trajectories and stories of just how they have risen to be at the top of the LPL. Both are on weaker teams throughout the start of their careers. It was OMG for Creme, WE for Shanks, but then get these opportunities with these higher ups, and they're always going to be compared to each other, right? Because of that fact, because they kind of had very similar career paths, and we definitely did a lot of comparing last year between these two teams once they ended up facing off. So far, it has been Shanks with more of that international success and long-term in terms of just winning these championships as well, but Creme certainly wants to change that narrative.
Actually, Creme went to 2 internationals and made semifinals last year, so...
Oh, that's true. That was a fake semis.
What? What?
I don't know.
It's not our fault. It's not our fault that T1 gets to play 2 LPL teams going up. That's just that. Come on.
You see the matchup into T1, you're like, all right, nice job, guys. We'll wrap it up.
It's kind of a scheduled loss, man. Bro, they farmed like all of our seeds, man. They take our 2nd seed in AL. They take our 4th seed in IG. They take our 3rd seed. Like, dude, come on, man. All right, that's enough. That's the
T1 aside. They're over on LCK if you want to watch that instead. We got grub fights here in the top side of the map. Tarzan going to steal the final one, but it will be a 2-for-1 trade in favor of anyone's legend. They were the ones in the pit first. They send both supports up here. Soul Unbound comes forward for Creme. Still looking for Shanks. Fate Seal available, but not going to be used, as he'll end up snapping right back and making sure that top esports do not lose anybody.
All right, getting grubs. I'm happy, I think. Getting any of those for a champion like Mbessa and for Azir is always good, but similarly, if we're talking about side lane, if this Gwen's able to kind of let it rip, then the Beyblades are going to be going very well for top esports. If they can hit these turrets and get those plates, that's been kind of the big thing I've been harping on for all of this season, has been if you're not going to contest for Dragon, please go hit the turret plates. There is so much free gold in the game to be able to get you away, especially if it's not like a soul or a really important dragon you need to contest. We're coming up on one in a minute and a half's time in top esports with a dragon stack, and we have seen from them so far the priority that they're using with this bottom lane. And another important one where I think they need to be looking to try to take those away from AL.
Well, both mid laners just decided to use their ultimates and not hit each other, which is all fine and dandy, but it's going to actually end up benefiting anyone's legend because Tarzan is here first. Oh, the Impale not going to be able to get over that much wall. So will be another ultimate being burned, but Tarzan able to establish some control now in the mid lane, trying to take away some of these chickens.
He got most of the small ones. Almost cave over the big one is Tien, but we'll just smite that one away. This is an interesting game here, Grapes, because if you just look at the gold advantage, you're saying AL are in a great spot, Azir's up 600 gold, and Mbessa is up 500 gold. You're feeling good. Your solo lanes are doing, and you're gonna have a poke Varus later on in the game. I think most teams, more often than not, are gonna want to take that. But I think if you look at the backline axis that this top esports team has, that could open up a lot of avenues for them. And again, Dragon's so important here. And no ultimate for Tarzan. I wonder if that is going to maybe bite back at this team for not being able to fight this drag.
Will that create a situation where top esports can once again get out to that early Drake lead? It didn't necessarily work out for them in game one, but very different situation. They had the early game comp last time around. That was why they were able to get those Drakes. They're able to get a 2-0 lead with the team that's going to want to fight out these 5v5s, all the unique interactions that each of these champions have into AL's opposition. Certainly a much more promising sign of things to come. Tarzan does have his ultimate up in 5, so does Shanks. That means that this dragon actually likely will be contested. First, the battle will be around the Scuttle Crab. Top esports should control that. The question is what happens afterwards.
Look at top lane right now. Swayon hasn't finished an item, and as soon as Flandre pushes a wave and then goes into Fog of War, top esports say we're not fighting this, because if Gwen and Mbessa TP, AL win this fight every single time. An Eclipse finished already, and there we go. It's going to be Varus instead TPing in. 4-on-5 with Tien in the pit. I mean, Creme could find a flank. There's the Mbessa TP.
Very low, stolen away by Tarzan, and AL even up the dragon count. Two-man pop blossom as well, and JiaQi dies before he can even issue the culling. A teleport comes in, but it might be far too late, as Zwayan going to get slammed right back into the wall and impaled by the Skarner, sent right back to his demise, and anyone's legend, an absolute domination around the second dragon pit. Creme the only one on his team left alive, and he's going to have to run and run back underneath his tier 1 turret.
And just a confusing fight there from top esports. They weren't able to keep track of where Nico was on the flank, so Kael gets this massive pop blossom. JiaQi is not able to deal with the front line, and this is what we were talking about from the draft already. We saw signs of it from the laning phase, but top esports just discombobulated, desynced, and now giving up their dragon and giving over a 3,000 gold lead. This is just like, I think, blatant disrespect from top esports. This is a big fight from Kael, and I said it already, Gwen versus trying to match this Mbessa, never going to win this one. They were not in position from top esports to try to contest for this dragon, and have now set themselves so far behind, trying to mount an impossible comeback.
I mean, Zwayan wasn't even able to play the game. He got CC'd 100-0 by Tarzan on the Skarner. The Ixtal's impact straight into the Impale. Makes sure he goes down. He still has his ultimate available because he wasn't even able to proc the first of his 3 issuances of the Needlework. Be a little bit more of a struggle now for a TES team that is all of a sudden reeling a little bit. A lot of these teams that started off the year hot starting to hit these mid-season slumps.
They're cooling off, and maybe just recognizing how long the calendar is, you know? Saying, okay, we could take it a little bit slow. You know, regular season is you always want to try your best, but, you know, sometimes some wins are more important than others, as we say. So, Creme down a level, gonna probably be down a couple turret plates here.
Might even be down his life. Tarzan has just been hunting this man ever since he hit that early game.
Jesus.
Doesn't even need to issue much damage. It's just Shanks that ends up getting all of the DPS down. And he's now 4-0-2 on his signature Azir.
Well, Azir's gonna get this entire turret. And Creme still hasn't finished his role quest in mid. We're taking a replay. What happened here? Did Creme die while we were in a replay?
We might have missed this here. Kael. Oh, he was playing bait for the Azir.
Wow.
And ends up going down.
He
He
died.
just totally missed that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that AL have probably been one of our few teams that have still prioritized Nico, and they've definitely been the smartest. I think back to that IG game where they played in Fog of War, they used Nocturne plus Nico to hide her ability to use her ultimate, and then we saw it again with Ryze in the WE matchup where they Ryze ulted the Nico into 3 members and got a huge Bot Blossom. AL have been a very cerebral team, and now with this teleport, they already got the bottom lane turret. They're going to unlock so much gold for these solo laners, and they're giving this all to Shanks.
Yeah, get it into this Azir's pockets, because if he's able to get accelerated on this champ, oh, there's no telling the amount of work that he's going to be able to do onto TES, who now are down 5,000 gold at 15 minutes. We know that these team fights should in general work towards their favor as we get later on. But is that even going to happen at this point? Because right now it looks like AL are just going to run away with this game if it continues to go this way.
Look at this, 2,500 gold here, and that's going to be even worse. Only silver lining I can get over to Top Esports is that they've got the pity prizes, objective bounties claimed for this Yone. Will keep him within touching distance of the... I don't even want to say touching distance. There's literally a whole football field away from this guy in gold. And he's a level up. And look at Shanks' items. Like, if this Azir is going to be the main carry of this game, I think having Seeker's Arm Guard to kind of as a pit stop to stop any of the shenanigans that are going to be here from the Top Esports comp now is essentially just like a free life. You get to bait in Top Esports and bring them into your huge team fight potential with this Nico and Skarner and Mbessa.
Yeah, and while AL might get individually countered by some of the champions like we were talking about at the start of draft, they're very strong champions in their own right? Like these guys, Varus and Mbessa, Nico, top of the tier list both just in terms of the current meta and also AL's comfort level. So the way that they're able to play these fights out is still going to be very, very good. They are able to now finish off the last of these outer turrets, now work towards the inner with the Rift Herald being issued by Tarzan. JiaQi and Fengyue cannot do much about it. They're going to try to allow for TN to get some space here, looking for a flank, but Tarzan immediately is going to mark the dog, force him to already issue the call of the pack. In goes Shanks looking for an ultimate, but not able to find anything, and now Creme and the rest of TS might go on the offensive, but another crowd control. Chain lands. Hope started it off with the chain of corruption, and everyone on AL were able to follow up.
Grapes, I hate to say this, but I think the game ended on that second dragon. The fact that Top Esports not only lost the game on them trying to make the play, but then now don't even have dragon stacking as a potential fallback plan similar to game 1. That's kind of just the game, honestly. Like, Azir is way too far ahead. Mbessa is completely disgusting and is now 13 already, and is going to be hitting that second item rather soon. Tarzan's on 2. We haven't seen JiaQi do much with this bottom lane lead after that play. I think Top Esports may just go down 0-2 here in this matchup, and AL are going to move up. I mean, Creme, again, completely CC chained. He went for the gunmetal Greaves. So these are your upgraded Berserker Greaves. You're going to get more movement speed when you're dealing damage, but no tenacity. And I wonder if and when he is going to have access to these items or that stat line.
Yes, they just need to make something happen. They're going to try to find a play on this bottom side. Jungle's way on, uses the Blast Cone into Tarzan, and now he's going to separate himself from the rest of his team. Tien goes forward, but he immediately gets bursted out by a piercing arrow. The Pup Blossom from Kael will find 4 members of TES. It will be Zoyan nearly taking down Tarzan, finally going to allow that shutdown to go through, but he's now on the wrong side of the map. Shanks goes forward with the shifting sands, going to flash forward. A couple more autos should do the deed, and it's now 11-2 in favor of anyone's legend. They have continued to push the pace here in this game.
Everything is collapsing as Top Esports get more and more desperate to make a play work for them to find a pick. JiaQi, he dashes forward.
She's at the culling, and the cozy campfire going to keep him alive. Solon Bowden comes forward for Creme, but he initially now has to snap right on back. Shanks hunting for that Emperor's Divide, not going to find it, but another arrow connects, and Fengyue is down for the count. The Tangle Barbs land onto Creme as well, and he's forced to use the dash to try and escape. But Azir is hungry. Shanks is looking for another kill. Won't be able to take the Yone down. Top Esports able to try and get some sort of semblance back into this game, but AL are having none of it. It is now a 5,500 gold lead.
Yeah, JDG, whatever this, JD Esports, whatever this little graph is, let's bump that up another 8 to 9% right there, because this game is, quite honestly, frankly, over. I mean, 5,000 gold lead here. You have a super fed Azir in this game. I think we said that if Top Esports, if they fall behind, it's going to look pretty bad. It's going to continue to get worse for them here in this game. It's honestly like you're like, okay, we got kills, right? Swayon finds this, awesome. And that maybe buys them a few minutes in this game, but I think it is pennies in a bucket here as they're taking everything. They even got the mid-tier one halfway through this play. Shanks, by the way, put a turret behind them in the mid-tier one. So while they're losing their jungle, they're losing access to the map. They don't get to play split push because they got only one grub. They lost the Herald. Everything is going to the Pandas. And it's probably just going to be the series all by itself.
They're not done just yet. They're still looking again. Tangle Barbs connect. The Call to Pack's not going to do anything about that. Flandre follows up the public execution. And this Naafiri has not been able to do squat here in this second game. He's 0-3-1. And now AL can continue the push onto this tier 2. Baron is available, but they don't even need it to continue to have this push go down.
They have no ability to push in mid. Creme is like, I'll catch the wave on top lane, and then Shanks shows up and he deletes the minion wave. A great bounce back from AL. Now going on a multi-series win streak. They took their win versus WE. They lost to BLG, but have been looking rock solid ever since. It seems like the bounce back for this team. And honestly, at the right time. Talk about it again for their schedule. They played IG a couple of days ago, a 2-0 victory there. They play Top Esports here. They take a 2-0, and then they play IG again. They could go 6-0 this week and slingshot themselves up to 7-3. That would leapfrog Top Esports and put them within top 3, maybe even top 2 conversation.
And for TES, they got to play Weibo tomorrow, the team that they just lost to a few short days ago, right after potentially getting slammed in a 2-0 fashion to anyone's legend. And that's just the nature of the LPL, the nature of these top teams continuing to play against each other at a very frequent rate in Group Ascend. TES got off to that 6-game win streak, but all of a sudden, one bad week and they're right back down to the middle of the pack.
Dragons here. This is probably the apex at which we will see Top Esports have any relevancy. This almost feels like the last gasp. They need to win this next Dragon fight. And this is where I think Swayon's Gwen needs to be basically the game decider. He is the one player that has gotten minimal amount of attention from AL. He has gotten some kills for himself. He is level 14. He is probably the most relevant player outside of maybe JiaQi Love. And so Top Esports are going to have to play around their fledgling top laner if they want to even have a kind of a breath here in this series.
Well, that breath is going to have to be held for the next 5 minutes because this dragon belongs to AL after TM just gets bursted down by Shanks from a mile away. 5-0-5 on the Azir. Holds on the completion of the Zhonya's because he hasn't even had to use it yet. He's able to buy a full-on Shadow Flame in the meantime to deal a little bit of extra burst damage if they didn't have enough to begin with. So a third dragon picked up for AL. They're on the Infernal Soul Point. They got a 7,500 gold lead, and things continue to look better and better for them here in this second game.
Feels good, AL. And honestly, it is the most unlikely subjects. I think Flandre, the last like 4 series, has actually been rather impressive. He had a couple of whoopsies versus Bin, and obviously they lose that series 0-2. But Flandre's improvement from the start of the split to now, market, definitely starting to put himself in conversation for that all-pro votes, which we'll start to kind of get into as we close out the regular season here in week 5. But wow, 18 here. I'm going to get distracted because I'll be honest, Grapes, this game's over from my perspective. You're now on sole point as AL, and you've been dominating for what has kind of felt the entire game.
Yeah, it feels like TES have maybe one more fight in them. If they can get the Infinity Edge onto JiaQi, they get a second item onto Creme. They already have 2 onto TN and Dusk and Dawn completed for Zwayan. But even if they're able to do that, still all the money is in AL's side. It's going to be very difficult for them to even play this game out the rest of the way.
Oh
Zwayan,
my god. Secret
he's
Agent
in a bad spot
Zwayan
right now. I think he's actually going to still remain in the Fog of War and keep himself alive for now. Topic now becomes the Baron for anyone's Legend, as they have a lot of resources focused towards that top side. And that means that Zwayan is going to try to find a little cheeky play maybe on the Flandre, before realizing that maybe that's not not going to end up being the play. So he's out.
Yeah, maybe he actually just goes for a flank because they don't have eyes on Zwayan. The mid lane wave might be the only thing that shows. He's playing with a lot of respect. He knows he is the last hope for top esports. And if TES want a chance at this game, we've been talking about Dragon. We've been talking about, you know, being able to maybe find a team fight about Zwayan. Anything to get this shut down on any one of these AL members, but particularly Shanks, is going to be pivotal. They need to kill this Azir and get him out of the fight if there's going to be any conversation of a game number 3. Aside from that, it is kind of just clean, collected play. Can AL just coast out for the next 2.5 minutes and get themselves ready for what is going to be a Dragon? Honestly, Graves, we might even see them send for a Baron if they make one pick with an Azir this fed.
Yeah, and just knowing that TS is always going to have to answer for the potential soul. Baron might just end up being free, just like that blue buff ended up being for TN. And Flandre's going to immediately snap back in favor of the public execution. Big chunk of damage back, though, and now Kael only going to land the Pop Blossom onto 1. Health bars are dropping, and top esports might have found an overextension. Shanks has to go golden as Creme goes forward with the Fate sealed, and will make it a 1-for-1 trade, as it will be still TN dropping. Top esports might not be in the driver's seat, but they certainly are happy with getting a big shutdown onto Shanks.
When you are 7,000 gold behind, a 1-for-1 is exactly the trade that you want, and that shutdown goes over to JiaQi Love. That is a massive influx of gold, but it's not enough. You need so much more in this game to come back. Going into this next Dragon fight here, we'll take a look back at this replay. I mean, there's some tools that were spent, but look at Zwayan in this fight. He buys so much time. Corrupted Era of Corrupted Chains does land, but look at how much space he's able to buy with this Gwen. Ultimate lands. He actually puts the Hollowed Mist, so there's no damage being able to be applied, and also Shanks just wasn't here. So this is a good look, and probably the most important part of the game if you're looking at it from top esports perspective. But Grapes, I'm looking at this next fight. That's crazy. I'm looking at this next fight. No flash on either jungler, no flash on JiaQi Love, and no flash here for this Nico. It's going to be a very big win if top esports can continue to snowball this, but I mean, AL are still very firmly ahead of this game.
We're seeing semblances of why we were saying this TS competition is going to work out if they can get to an even game state. They have not been at that just yet, though, but Zwayan's trying to make that a different story. Public execution, though, will land on the Flandre as he's trying to turn it around, but Zwayan will have none of it. That is a solo kill for the Gwen, and now Shanks is actually out of position as well. This Dragon should just belong to TES, but it will come at the cost of this Gwen's life. He's going to dash forward for a little bit of extra damage, but finally Shanks will take him down. But meanwhile, JiaQi Love got chunked down to half HP, meaning that the river control is not claimed by either side at this point.
That's a Dragon. That's Soul here. I mean, look at TN right now. You have no jungler able to move in, and 35 seconds before any of the top laners join, AL will get an Infernal Drake Soul.
They're going for broke.
Very little lost here from AL, and they're going to trade for Baron. I hate this trade. Baron, I mean, cool. You'll take 750 gold. I love this response from AL. The
AL
Soul
don't care about the soul. They know they can just get to it later. They want to try to end the fight right here. Fengyue chunked down to nearly death as Shanks now has to pop the Zanya's Hourglass. It will be the Baron secured, Fate sealed out for Creme, and top esports now to try to channel these resets, try to get out of this fight. Shanks ends up taking a big burst of damage. Fengyue goes down, and now it will be an instant death onto the hands of this Nafiri. Shanks ends up getting the kill. It's a 1 2 kills, I should say, in favor of anyone's legend, but Top Esports get the Baron and keep the game alive.
I mean, sure, you got 500 gold grapes, but what else are you supposed to do? Look at your minion waves, all of them pushing into your turrets or pushing onto your side of the map. AL now, they know Tien's dead for 20 seconds. Shanks won't be able to TP in, so in the time it takes for him to walk from base to here is going to be the time in which Top Esports have any kind of position to move in.
Yeah.
This is still just the soul. Like, the Baron means nothing.
They send in the teleports to make sure that this goes down. Zoyan thought about maybe going for a little bit of a cheeky play, but it will be the Infernal Soul picked up for anyone's legend. Have not done too much with this Baron power play just yet. Top Esports, they tried for a play. They were successful in one aspect, but they were very unsuccessful in the others.
And sure, they bit into the gold lead. It was a 7,000 gold lead here for AL. Baron's going to give you 750, and that's kind of it. They got a kill beforehand with Swayon solo killing Flandre, but Soul is going to give you about 4,000 gold, if I remember what the kind of approximate gold value was. So imagine that AL are currently up 10k. That's the boundary typically from a casting perspective, where you just say the game's quite over and we should be expecting them to win. Now for AL, it's can you close out in the next 4 minutes? Is the Baron going to be enough for Top Esports to be able to give them the time here in this game?
It would take a miraculous fight for TES to end up forcing that decisive Game 3. But we've seen this team against rosters like AL work miracles in the past. But miracles might not even be enough here. Zoyan going to the top side to try to clear this wave out, but the rest of AL, despite having the Baron buff against them for the next wave, going to try to break open the base of Top Esports. Creme is waiting here in the mid lane while the rest of his team is on a flank.
Behind.
Going forward is Tarzan, but he's unable to find any crowd control. Tien trying to clear this wave out, and Zoyan has gone with a TP. Has an extra shield, looking for the engage. This might be the last effort for TES here in this second game. Zoyan dashes away from the Emperor's Divide, but still gets hit up by the pop blossom, and the CC chain will take him down. Flandre able to claim the gold. Tien runs for the hills, and JiaQi now the lone hope here for TES, but he gets bursted down from a mile away as Shanks says not today. He dashes forward onto Fengyue, looks to finish the job. It's a double kill for the Birdman, and only Tien lives as the base will get broken open.
To you, Top Esports, Shanks' name is Emperor. You will call him your king as AL move in to get a 2-0 victory over the 6-2 Top Esports.
Momentum is on the Panda side as we kick off Pandemonium Weekend. Anyone's Legends in 31.5 minutes going to dominate Top Esports and take a series sweep in the second half of the round robin.
That is the easiest Shanks MVP I have ever seen in my entire life. Clearly the better mid laner here in this game. He got taken advantage of in the Annie versus Rise matchup in that game 1, but it did not matter. We saw excellence here from AL. We saw shaky decision-making from Top Esports, and it kind of paid off for the Pandas. It is true Pandissimo going on through for week number 5.
And this is the AL that we know and love, that we saw dominate the entirety of 2025. You could say start to finish, the most complete team of this past calendar year. It has not looked the same. Going into 2026, we wondered if Tabe was the answer, but AL want to prove that that is not the case, as they, I believe, are up now to 6-3 in the standings and will tie Top Esports in that regard. TS still have the game score advantage because of all the 2-0s that they have generated here this season. But AL feeling very confident about where they are. They have another matchup tomorrow in CN while they're already feeling at the top of their form against an Invictus Gaming that really has been struggling. So a lot to look forward to if you are AL looking towards the back half of this season.
Man, that is an insane one. And remember, we keep talking about it. I think I'm going to keep hammering away at this. Potentially a 3-0 weekend is incredible for your standings. You boost yourself to be able to go very far up in the standings, and again, you're looking at potentially pole position, at being able to potentially challenge BLG for first place. I think that that's an incredible bounce back after taking a look at their first round robin. They went what, 3-5 or 3-4? that's like barely a 50 or just under a 50% benchmark, you're always going to take your free win versus WE this split. Let's just, that's just how it goes. That's how the matchup goes.
For AL, the rest of their schedule, they play the two teams that started off Hop and now are struggling next in IG and then NIP. They have WE next later on in the schedule to wrap up their season, and then in between, BLG and JDG, the two representatives from First Stand. If AL want to jump into that contender category, they're going to have to take down likely at least one of them. The top 4 spot seems pretty likely for them at this point, as I believe they are feeling pretty good. I think we have our updated standings as well, just to take a look at generally where we are in the league, because it's a really interesting current grouping in the standings. There's teams that are maybe on the downward trend, and other teams like Anyone's Legend certainly trending up.
They're surging. It's literally a 1-game difference between Top Esports and AL. And that's kind of why AL, some of their 3-game series, particularly, I say series, it's a singular one, the one that we casted with Weibo, if they had 2-0'd that series, maybe they would at least have the head-to-head, or at least it'd be even, and now you're tied up. But AL are putting themselves in a really good spot to surge going into playoffs. That is the most important thing. If you don't know about our format, really the most important thing you need to know for these two teams, top 4, you're automatically qualified into playoffs. You're the 1 through 4 seeds, and then the higher seed you are, the more likely you get to choose your opponent going in.
And that will really be important, because there is the beginning of a hierarchy starting to form in this ecosystem. Obviously, a team like WE towards the bottom of the table, even if they can get through Knight's rivals. But then, would you rather play a team like IG, who just made a roster change, an unproven roster in NIP?
Who knows?
Even a team, like Weibo, who has been struggling throughout the season. You get to really have your pick of the litter of that pack once you end up getting one of those higher seeds.
This game was just a masterclass. I know that a lot of the highlights are going to be these big team fights, but I would just love to go over those first 8 minutes from either Shanks' perspective. If we still had ProView, if we still had that, I know that there's some kind of access on, I think, Billy, but I'm not going to get too much in the weeds. I would love to see Creme's POV in this game as to what happened, because this was a very uncharacteristic loss for him on a signature champion of his. This would be on the same level for me if I saw this guy lose on Akali or Silas.
And now you have to wonder for Top Esports. This is 2 straight series losses. They play against Weibo tomorrow, the team that also 2-0'd them earlier on in the week. You talk about a 3-0 week for AL being awesome. Top Esports could be staring at a 0-3 week if things end up going wrong tomorrow as well. That is certainly not a place you want to be in, and all of a sudden the vibe's starting to shift here onto this team that really put a lot of faith in some of this young talent like Zoyan, like Fengyue, and I think it's fair to say that specifically the top side of the map today really struggled here in this series. For sure.
Actually, yeah, okay, I'm down with it. There was a lot of this game and last game in particular where we saw Fengyue just die because we saw AL pounce on him. So it really felt like most of this team started to struggle. Just put Azir. Just put Shanks on the screen. Oh, we're going to get into an interview with...
Yeah, it's Kael.
No, that's Shanks. That's
Shanks. Okay.